I changed the code on our garage because my boyfriend had been locking me out of my own workshop for 2 months. The garage is split down the middle. His half has the Camaro he's been restoring since before we met. My half has my bench, my saws, my finishing table. I sell cutting boards and small furniture online, and most of what I make happens between 8 and midnight because I do payroll at a dental group all day. It started in March. I came out one night with my coffee and the keypad wouldn't take my code. 4 beeps, red light, nothing. I went around to the side door and it was deadbolted from the inside, which it never is, because the deadbolt sticks and you have to shoulder it. Marcus was in the living room. He said the opener had been acting up and he'd get a guy out to look at it. Fine, things break. Except 2 weeks later it still wasn't fixed, and the side door was still bolted, and when I asked him for whatever new code he'd set, he said he hadn't set one. The panel was just glitching. He'd let me in himself when he had a minute. That's how I ended up standing in my own driveway in a hoodie at 9 at night, waiting for my boyfriend to have a minute. He always had a minute eventually, but he'd go in ahead of me and flip the light on and stand there while I worked, like a guy watching a dog he doesn't trust. Then I started noticing things. My shop vac moved 3 feet to the left, a folded moving blanket on the concrete behind the Camaro that I'd never folded, the smell of cigarettes, and neither of us smokes, a grocery bag of energy drink cans in my scrap bin. I asked. He said he'd been out there late working on the car and he'd clean it up. The thing that broke it open was a Thursday. Our office closed early for a software migration, and I got home at 1:40 in the afternoon. The garage door was wide open, all the way up. My bench was clear, my aprons were on the hooks, everything looked normal, and my boyfriend's cousin Trey was sitting on an overturned bucket next to the Camaro, scrolling his phone. Trey is the reason my miter saw is a rental now. He took mine in November and told us he'd borrowed it, and it was in his trunk, and it was never in his trunk. I said then, out loud, in front of both of them, that he wasn't allowed back on the property. He saw me and stood up so fast the bucket tipped. Marcus came out of the house behind me and got mad at me, said I should have texted that I was coming home, that I'd walked up on people like a cop. I told him I live here. I told him that's my building, my tools, my bench. He said I was being dramatic, that Trey was going through it and needed somewhere to be during the day, and that he'd known I'd react like this, which is why he hadn't said anything. So the opener wasn't broken. There was no glitch. He'd set a code and given it to Trey and not to me. I tested it anyway, because I wanted to be sure I wasn't crazy. Over the next 10 days, I came home at different times. If Marcus knew my schedule, the door was down and the deadbolt was thrown. If he didn't, it was up, and there was a bucket and a blanket and cans. On a Saturday, while he was at his mom's, I called the company that installed the opener, paid $95 for a service call, had them wipe the panel and set a new master code. Then I put a padlock through the side door hasp. Then I went inside and waited. He got home at 6, and I heard the keypad beeping 4 times. Then again. Then the side door rattling. He came in and asked what was going on with the garage. I said the opener had been acting up and I'd get a guy out to look at it. He didn't think that was funny. He said the Camaro was in there, his tools were in there, and I couldn't just lock him out of his own garage. I said I'd been standing in the driveway since March. He said it wasn't the same, because he had a reason. I asked what the reason was, and he finally said it. Trey had been sleeping out there since February. Marcus had known. He said it wasn't a big deal because Trey was family, and I was being cold about somebody with nowhere to go. The blanket was gone from behind the Camaro by Monday. I still have the only code.